What's up, world changers? It's the 4 at 4.
Adam and Michelle Carey.
Or Michelle and Adam Carey.
Yeah,
You want
it
to be
should
first?
be like that.
You want to be first for first?
Well, I've
once?
learned, though, from an etiquette expert that you should never separate the man and his last name.
Mm-hmm.
So the woman should really be named first.
This has been an argument we've had for quite a while. Michelle and Adam Carey or Adam and Michelle Carey. But as you can clearly see behind us, it's Adam and Michelle Carey. It might look backwards where you're coming from. Mikey J, what's going on? Scotty, thanks for joining us. I'm always curious to see who gets on first.
Yeah.
And I don't know why it shows us one number and it only shows a different number.
Hey, Shannon.
Hey, y'all.
So,
Holla.
let's see. Today is Thursday.
Happy Thursday.
We're not going to be meeting tomorrow, but
unless we're inspired.
Yeah, unless we're inspired. What are you guys doing for the weekend?
Yeah, take it to a vote. LOL. I just voted, Mikey, Adam, and Michelle.
Always need to be in charge.
So we got something pretty exciting planned this weekend. We are headed to LA. We're speaking for a private event, and Les Brown is going to be one of the guest speakers. So we're super pumped. We hopefully we get a chance to meet him. We'll get the chance to say we shared the stage with him, but we'll get some pictures. Maybe we'll do Facebook Live if it's allowed. But any Les Brown fans out there? There's actually a quote in today's chapter that we're covering that Les Brown talked about, and it was, don't let someone's opinion of you become your reality. So that was pretty
powerful.
Awesome.
You know what I love a lot about Les Brown is his laugh.
Uh-huh. Can you give it to me?
No, you do it.
Oh,
you do it all the time.
I can't do it on the spot.
Not on the spot?
That's how Les sounds.
All right, well, let's go ahead and jump in. So we have Lori, Murray, Lorna, welcome, Patricia, and
hey, where
Sybil.
are you guys coming in from? If you would give us your city, state, or we don't really get too many out of the country, out of the United States.
It's probably because they're sleeping.
They probably get the replay. But before we jump in, just give a quick recap for those that might be catching this for the first time.
Quick recap. Okay, so we are going over in depth and in an interactive book study of the 15 laws of invaluable growth. And so we're going chapter by chapter, 4 days a week at 4 p.m. Pacific, Monday through Thursday. And we have some awesome people that have been jumping on, interacting, and some amazing interaction in our Facebook group. Can I just say that I'm super happy about our private Facebook group. There's been lots of amazing videos that have been shared, pictures with the quotes, and just takeaways. So we're just so proud of you for jumping in. I know you guys are super busy and you do it anyway, and that's why your growth is going to be even more exponential because you're participating.
How many of you would say the Facebook group has encouraged you? Awesome, Dubai in the house. How many of you would say that the Facebook group has encouraged you to push a little harder than if it wasn't there? I would just be curious to hear your feedback on that. So today we're covering law number 6, the law of environment growth thrives in conducive surroundings. I probably say this every day, like this is my favorite law, but I really believe that, and I say this with all humility, that this is one that I think Michelle and I probably practice the best at, is we're very intentional about the environment that we're around. So let's dive in. You want to get started?
Yeah, I mean, so I could really appreciate this because the environment that I was in prior to network marketing, kind of my college years environment, I would say that my college years were probably the darkest years of my life, you know, because I, was putting myself in environments that were a little bit destructive. Yeah. And I was, like, if I could go back and do college all over again, like, I wish I had been in personal development. Yeah. Because I think I would have just uncovered the real me sooner. Like, I was so busy trying to be everybody else, you know, you kind of had the expectation of, you go to college and you do the party thing and you just kind of follow the crowd even if it's not what you want to do. Right, the sheep, right? And I don't know, Adam has always been an angel. I'm the rebel.
I'm sure there's some skeletons out there.
You have skeletons in your closet.
I don't know.
Let's have Adam bring those all out right now.
I'm getting red.
But you know,
they were washed away by the blood of Jesus.
That's
Thank
right.
you, Lord.
Amen. So that's why I just so cherish my environment now, because I've known what it is to have a not so good environment, and then now I know what it is to be able to shape your environment. And as an adult, maybe as children, we aren't able to shape our environment as much, but as an adult, we have a responsibility to shape our environment. Life doesn't happen to us as adults. Like, we have more control over a lot of things that many people who maybe never become fulfilled just let it happen to them, let it form on its own.
I would say now, being a parent, you're more intentional about the situations that your kids go into. So sometimes we're more concerned about the atmospheres that our kids are in than ourselves, but we need to know that wherever we go, we're either influencing or being influenced as well. So I just thought being a parent totally changes everything. So if you're not a parent yet, it'll definitely make this one a little bit more of an important law. But I did want to talk about us moving, if you're on a roll. So back in 2009, Michelle and I got introduced to, well, we'd both been introduced to network marketing, but we got introduced to a company, and we decided to make a trip out to Texas. We lived in California, and they weren't operating. They weren't gathering customers in the state that we lived in. And so we went out to Texas. We spent 10 days, learned about it. And at the end of 10 days, we looked at each other and we just said, this is where the gold mine is. This is where you can actually make money. This is where the customers are. This is where the leadership is. The company's based. So we made an impulsive decision to pack up and move, and we were all in. And I have to say that was one of the best things for our growth, because we packed up and moved away from friends and family. And we were able to, as they talked about one of the other laws, like, we got to start over and be anybody we wanted to be, because we didn't have a reputation there and nobody knew us, so we could be whoever. But the great thing is we just got to start over fresh and put ourselves in environments and atmospheres where they were all about what we were all about, which was growing and building a business. And if they weren't about what we were about, then we just didn't spend any time there, because we didn't have any time to waste. We were working part-time jobs, parking cars, waiting tables, and honestly, we recruited, yes, a couple people from the waitress jobs and the valet jobs, but they weren't the people that stuck around, because those weren't even the environments that were encouraging growth, if that makes sense. And so it was just a huge eye-opener that when we did that, and we ended up moving back to California, it's interesting that we didn't end up hanging out with a lot of the same friends, because we were just on different pages now. Our priorities were different than theirs. And I'm not saying that you have to completely cut people off. There's a fine line. But there comes a time where there's a phrase that Darren Hardy uses, that people are either engines or anchors. I think he uses it. Somebody uses it. That they're engines and anchors. There's people in your life that are either encouraging you, or they're like an anchor holding you back. And I don't know about you, but I don't have time to be dragged down by people that are discouraging me from pursuing my dream. And so that move away and then coming back was just a huge teaching. It was a good teachable moment. So
yeah, that was a very powerful time. So sorry to hear about that, Sybil. I can't see, it's not showing us everything, but we just pray for comfort, God's overwhelming peace over you in this time. And
I guess I lost that.
Yeah,
I didn't catch that.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll definitely read the rest. It doesn't show us everything, but we'll read the rest and be praying for you. So, I think the biggest thing that I want to go over is just really the soil. You know, I love analogies that where your analogy with your growth is with, you know, plants and soil and nature. And I just think it's so true. You know, it's really where you plant your seed, and what nurtures it is what's going to be able to grow, right? So just several things that come to mind as far as your soil goes. You know, what are you feeding your mind? I think that is perhaps one of the biggest things that people just don't, you know, take hold of and take full responsibility of. And because there's just so much that you could just get locked into and watch. Or, you know, I don't know, whenever I watch the news, I know some of you like the news. Scotty, I know you like the news, but every time I watch or like see a glimpse of the news, I feel like
anxiety.
Upset. Yeah, like I feel just my spirit welling up and fear coming in, and it's like, no, that's not reality, you know, like our reality is above all of that. And so I just, I grew up in a household that watched the news every single night, and that was one of the things I absolutely had to cut out because it was affecting me so much. But is there anything else that you want to?
No, I mean,
as far as soil goes.
As far as soil goes, I mean, I think the biggest issue that a lot of us focus on is just the fruit, the recognition, the promotion, the income, where it really starts at the soil. If you don't have healthy soil, you're not going to have healthy roots, and without healthy roots, you're not going to have healthy fruit. And the analogy that I look at is like, look at a tree. If you had massive fruit produced on a weak tree, it's going to self-destruct. And so, again, back to that quote that we posted the other day, can your character uphold the breakthrough that you're praying for? If it can't, there's a reason you're not getting blessed yet, because it'll wreck you, it'll destroy you, your character. Maybe you can't handle it yet. And so, everything that we need to be working on with growth is below the surface. What people don't see, the intentional growth, the attitude. Instead of, like yesterday I talked about, instead of a situation, no, it's an obstacle. I mean, it's an opportunity to grow. And so it's really all perspective and how you look at it. And I love what John says. There's one of the quotes that says, it says, it's possible to change without growing, but it's impossible to grow without changing. And there's so many one-liners in there that you could highlight all day long. But yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so one more thing about soil and your environment is, like, just think of your dreams and everything that's inside of you, all the power that's harnessed inside. When you attribute it to, let's say, an acorn, for example, an acorn grows into an oak. But did you know that when the acorn is in the ground, there needs to be a certain amount of pressure applied to it, and this goes for any seed. If there's no pressure from the ground applied to the seed, there's no way that that sapling could arise and come out of the ground. So I always think of this because sometimes our pressure is so uncomfortable, and we tend to move away from the pressure, whereas the pressure is needed in order for those dreams to break up inside of you and start to manifest into your reality. Just like how the pressure is needed for a seed to be able to crack open the seed and the plant begin to emerge. And I think the environment that we have to be comfortable with being in for a season, maybe it has to be more than a season, because you're constantly growing, right? Is being uncomfortable. You know, and
you have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah, get comfortable with the fact that you're just going to be uncomfortable. Like a couple of weeks ago, I asked Adam, I was like, is this ever going to end? You know, like, because we're constantly uncomfortable. And he was like, no, unfortunately it's not. It's never going to get easier, because we're always going to be striving for more and to going to the next level. So it was just one of those things where it's like, you know, I need to be okay with that. And once you get to the comfortable stage, you might be plateauing. And
no, if you do get to a constant place where you're comfortable, then you're not growing, you're not stretching anymore. So along those lines, we don't want to read you the whole book, but this page I have to read to you. It's on 96. This is my favorite part of the whole chapter. Growth always comes from taking action, and taking action almost always brings criticism. Ain't that the truth? Move forward anyway. To reach your potential, you must do not only what others believe you cannot do, but what even you believe you cannot do. That's pretty powerful. Yeah. Most people underestimate themselves. They shoot for what they know they can reach. Instead, they should reach for what's beyond their grasp. If you don't try to create the future you want, you must endure the future you get. That is worth reading over a few times. But what I love about that is anytime you do anything different, anytime you do anything new, you're going to face criticism, which is why you better have a really good reason why you're doing it. You know, we've talked about even momentum over the last couple days. And, you know, in order to have momentum, you got to have consistency. In order to have consistency, you got to have discipline. In order to have discipline, you got to know why. You got to have a burning desire. And when you have a burning desire, you can do things that you didn't even think was possible because you took that first step, and you never know what's going to lie on the other side, because this is a journey, right? We don't know what's behind turn number 2 and turn number 3, but if we don't get moving, we're not going to get there. And environment is key, guys. I mean, they say in here, the biggest influence in your environment is the people that you surround with. And there's a lot of quotes that go along with that. Birds of a feather flock together. My favorite one, though, is if you show me your friends, I'll show you your future. And you could argue that all day long, but let's just face it. You know, people of certain income levels are always hanging out together. Certain people of ethnic races, I mean, any way you dice it, people, like attracts like. And I don't think you could ever dispute that. And so if you want more, then you're just going to have to become more in relation to personal growth and development.
Just another thing on failure. I think it's really important to create an environment where failure is okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I think a lot of us, we grew up in an environment, and it could be because of the school system that we all went through, is failure was not okay. So when we become adults, we're so afraid to fail. And when you're an entrepreneur, it's just like a daily thing sometimes, you know, especially when you're doing something new, and everybody on here is an entrepreneur. You're network marketing, you're an entrepreneur, business owner, and it's just one of those things where you have to be okay with failing and not look at it as a negative. So that's just one of the thoughts that I had that popped into mind for you. I
got 2 more things that come to mind.
Okay, go ahead.
While you're thinking. So just one practical thing that we're doing, again, you could think of how things that you could do to relate to your own business. You know, when Michelle and I first moved to Texas, we were at every event, every meeting. And what we did is we intentionally went early to try to help, and we would intentionally stay late to try to network. And if the leaders were going to dinner, maybe at that time we couldn't afford to go eat out afterwards, but we'd get an iced tea, we'd get an appetizer, we would do something to intentionally put ourselves in the same room with the people that were making it happen. That's one of the biggest mistakes I see, is people not participating in the meetings after the meetings, because honestly, you don't learn the most in a training room. You don't learn the most on a Super Saturday. You learn the most at a dinner conversation or at coffee, or if a leader needs to get picked up from the airport, you volunteer and you go pick up that leader from the airport, because those are the most powerful moments. And so now for us, what we're doing with our brand training and networking, we are putting ourselves in environments. I was talking to Eric Worre's office today, trying to figure out how we could get VIP tickets for the upcoming event, because I want to be in the same room where all the 6- and 7-figure earners are that are already doing what we want to do, you know, creating products and training and expanding the influence. And because we're putting ourselves in those types of environments, we're forming some amazing relationships that are now becoming friendships. So, you know, for those that took part of our Undercover Recruiter, one of the bonuses was 4 one-hour webinars, Q&A webinars with us and another top leader. I didn't even have our top leaders secured when I did it, but we just got confirmation. We've got all 4 leaders secured, and they're going to blow the socks off of people. I mean, should we tell them who they are? Okay,
yeah,
so we just got confirmation that Richard Bliss Brooke is going to be one of our guest appearance. He's going to be one of our guest speakers, and I think his wife Kimmy is going to be on there as well. Yeah, they've been in the industry over 30 years, company owners. I mean,
super
giants.
MLM man.
Todd Falcone is going to be one of our one of the guests on our webinars as well. Esther Spina, and then Simon Chan, the host of MLM Nation. So right there's 4 hours of insane content. Only one of the 4 did we know when we started, you know, our network marketing business. The other 3, we fostered relationships through networking, through putting ourselves in front of the information in those atmospheres of growth. And now we got these giants of the industry that are willing to give their time and share their knowledge with our community. And so that's basically a spillover. That's a benefit to you guys, at least the ones that took advantage of the product. And I mean, in my opinion, that's worth the $200 that the product costs just for those 4 webinars. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
4 hours of their time
with the
of just
caliber that we got.
Q&A. So anyway, that was.
Those of you that don't know Richard Blissbrook, I mean, he owns Life Shots, MLM company, and catches videos. He's really awesome.
The 4-year career
is his book.
One of his books, Mach 2.
Yeah.
He's got all kinds of good stuff.
And then, of course, Todd Falcone, he has a new book, The Fearless Networker. But anyway, I think that's always been a strength of yours, and I've been able to benefit from it.
Yeah, I raise my hand, and I'll step in until we get kicked out. So, for example, should we share what we did today?
What?
We were doing some vision casting.
Yeah.
So there's a particular area that we want to move and buy a house, and there is, we found this house with the most incredible view on 5 acres. So we drove over to it today while we were brainstorming in the car, and it didn't look like anybody lived there. And so we just went up onto the deck and we took a few videos, and we just kind of soaked it in. And I wanted to go get coffee and come back and hang out, but we didn't do that.
Tomorrow we're going to bring our work there.
But we were putting ourselves in the environment that that is in our future. And so that was just one example that I wanted to share.
Yeah. Yeah, so kind of switching back to the material in here, one other thing that I wanted to go over is in the book, he has you evaluate your environment. And at the end of the evaluation, he talks about, you know, if you said yes, then celebrate that you're in an environment of growth. If you said no to 5 or more or something like that, then you need to make some hard choices. And I think one of the things is the hardest choice is when sometimes the closest people to you, they don't understand your journey right now, and that could ruffle some feathers in the household or ruffle some feathers, you know, as far as relationships go. We've definitely been there. And then also it just opens, whenever you set out to do something different, it just opens the door for criticism.
Yeah.
And John Maxwell went through that because he used to be a pastor, and you probably, if you read the book, you know the story. And like, because he decided to expand his influence outside of the church, he got some criticism about it. But I just can't imagine if he set his life upon the expectations of those people, how many people wouldn't have been affected. Like, I know our lives are different because of him.
We wouldn't be doing a book study right now.
Right, exactly. And so it's just one of those things where if you know in your heart that it's right, the criticism is just noise. And I wanted to also read something that I thought was really powerful, because once you start, you know, diving into personal development, you really start to feel empowered. You know, you no longer are giving your life to happenstance and circumstance, and you're starting to lead yourself. And one of the things that in the book on page 96, he quotes Albert Jeffrey, and he says, when you take charge of your life, there is no longer need to ask permission of other people or society at large. When you ask permission, you give someone veto power over your life. Before making a major change, seek wise counsel. So it is important to seek wise counsel. You know, we talked about having your board of directors for your life, if you can, but make your own decisions. And I just think that's very powerful, because that's the reality of life, is we just need to make our own decisions.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's a reality that maybe some of you here don't have a spouse that is super on board with your network marketing business or your personal growth, and it's threatening.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because we talked about that beforehand, and we're wrapping up here, is for those that are really, because sometimes when people get introduced to personal growth and development, it's like you have like a bottomless pit, like, because you just want to consume it. It's amazing. You've never had that revelation before, and so you start really growing, and the people that are in your circle are not growing, and they see it, they're threatened by it, and they want to stop you because you're acting weird, like you're different, and you're starting to scare them, and so they need to bring you back down to their reality. And so we just want to caution you, like, if that happens, just be prepared for it and try to bring them along. And I'm going to share that one tip, which is, here's the best tip I could give you. If you're building a business and your spouse is not on board, don't try to keep dragging them to an opportunity meeting. You know how you get them to buy in is you bring them to a barbecue. You bring them to a fellowship event. You bring them to some type of gathering where you guys are not doing business, where the families, the kids, they just get together and the wives get to talk, the husbands. And that's where we've seen the biggest transformation of negative spouses get turned around. And actually, sometimes they end up being more on fire than the one that was trying to convince them.
Yeah.
And so that's the biggest tip that we can give you, is don't make it all about business. Show them that it's a community, a family, and that we are, well, we're not normal, but we're sure having a heck of a lot more fun than most people out there.
I remember that, like, remember when we did that Christmas party?
Yeah.
We did a Christmas party, and we rented out this $1 million home, and there was this consultant that brought their spouse, and afterwards, like, we were just all sharing goals, and it was like
people
very
were crying.
emotional.
Yeah.
And his spouse was just so on fire. But I think also if you're needing to do personal development, you know, and wake up a little bit earlier, so your time time isn't being replaced.
Yeah, that's good.
Because sometimes, I know as for me, like, in the beginning, I had an issue with this with Adam, is like, you're not spending enough quality time with me. You're just doing, like, you're always working, or you're always reading, or you know what I mean? Like, I had to do a lot more mind work. And when I didn't feel like I was being replaced and I was included into the mix, and he had to do it earlier, you know what I mean? Sometimes maybe you have to get up earlier, so your spouse doesn't feel threatened. But anyway.
Yeah, put your family first.
Yeah.
But so anyway, I think that's all we got for today. I wanted to show you a quick view from that that patio,
cool.
just for fun. So I don't know how this works.
And while you're looking for that, Scotty Rude, same here. Likewise from Shannon, Chris Cohen. Family has never understood your journey. Can I just say, I don't know if my family watches these, but I don't think they really understand ours either.
We love
we
them.
love them.
Yeah.
But you know, they don't understand it, and
they have no idea.
Day,
our daughter, because you had to work on something. I was like, "Mommy's working." She's like, "Work?" Like she doesn't understand what that is. But check out this. This is the view from the place that we went and stalked today. So that's off the deck. If you can kind of see it.
How about we bring our work there tomorrow?
Yeah. So I don't have a realtor license, but nobody seemed to mind. So you can see like the Sierra Mountains or snow. It's just amazing. There's 5 acres.
Yeah, 5 acres.
So, anyway, you got to put yourself in the environment.
Yeah, if we get arrested for breaking and entering.
There was no gate, so we didn't go inside. Anyway, that was a lot of fun. So Law 6, what's Monday? So they kind of have.
Monday is
and let's do a homework assignment over the weekend.
Dream board?
A dream board?
Maybe. I don't know. Did you have one in mind?
How about sharing a dream in the group, whether it's a picture, whether it's a video, some type of goal. Like let's share, like we just shared like one of our goals. We want to have some space, we want to have some property, and we want to have a view. If we're not on the water, it has to be a view.
Grapes.
So because for us, we love to entertain and we love to bring people in and just gather and stuff. So what's a dream or a goal of yours this weekend? Shoot a video about it. Share a little bit. We want to bring this community even closer if we can. So post it in the group. Let's keep the momentum going. We're a third of the way, and let's not slow down. So we appreciate you guys, and we hope you have a great weekend. We'll be back on Monday at 4 o'clock to cover law number 7. And law number 7 is? Law of design. To maximize growth, develop strategies. That's going to be really challenging for me. I'm not a strategy person. All right, so we're going to make some, we're going to design something before Monday. All right? Stretched. Love you guys. We'll see you. God bless you.
Have a great weekend.
We'll reply to some of your comments, and we'll also post the link for the Facebook group in case anybody still has not yet joined. All right? Have a great weekend.